Welcome to Behind the Mic, the deep dive behind radio theology. Here are your hosts, Darren Earlywine, Lisa Graff, and Ryan Allward.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Mic, the spiritual deep dive of radio theology. Pastor Darren Earlywine here with you, with Ryan and Lisa. And guys, great week. We had a lot of fun with this episode as each and every week. And we were trying to answer the question, what do you want? And I'm excited about this episode Behind the Mic because we talk about it all the time on radio theology. We believe God has created you on purpose and for a purpose. And every one of us wants to know that our life matters, that we're making a difference. The difficult thing is that fear is our enemy, keeps us from making the best decisions of our lives. It also drives us to make some of the worst decisions of our life. But when you know your worth, you will start changing your world, and your world is basically defined as the relationships you're in. We firmly believe that. But getting practical, how do I actually do that, I think is a big hurdle.
Yeah.
Like, I want to live with purpose. I want to do great things. I'm inspired by people who are making things happen. But, like, right now I feel stuck. I don't freaking know where to start. Like, how do we get this ball rolling? So I'm excited about this episode because I'm really proud of you guys and the work that you guys have done in the past couple of years. I mean, since we started this show, to see the doors that have opened, the things that you two have created. And a lot of it is you guys coming to the point of doing what we talked about this week, of being like, answering the question, what do I want?
Yeah.
And one of the things we didn't unpack, but you would discover this if you went through our Spiritual DNA workshop. If you go to spiritualdna.me, you can get the online course. The first question I think you got to really answer before you can strongly and with conviction and wisely answer the question, what do I want? We've got to know, who am I?
Yeah.
Who has God created me to be?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have gone through Spiritual DNA. I went through it because I created it. And once you have an understanding of, this is who God's created me, this is kind of my leadership and kind of life voice, how I show up in the world. Here's my personality. Here's how I connect with God. Here are some amazing talents and a strength that God has given me that actually makes me unique, 1 in 33 million other people. And here is the journey my life is taking me. Parker Palmer says, before you can tell your life what you want to do with it, you have to listen to your life tell you who you are. Mm-hmm. And so there's a process you go through in Spiritual DNA of looking back at the different pain in your life, as well as some of the great wins, the passion moments in your life. And you go through that kind of process and you know, okay, this is who God has made me to be. And then that next question is, okay, well, what do I want to do with this life? What do I want from life? And I think as simple as that question is, we unpacked it, quickly in the show, I think it's difficult to actually come to the place of saying that this is it. In this season right now, this is what I want. And then we, also talked about to get to the point where then you're willing to actually commit it down to like ink and paper. Mm-hmm. And it's a big step.
Yeah. You do such a good job with this, Ryan.
Gosh, thanks, guys.
Yeah, you do. You're one of the people who sets out to do something and then it happens, right? Like last year, 2 years ago, you're like, I'm going to release a song a month. And then guess what you did? You released a song a month.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the specificity of it that I need to maybe borrow, because I'm like, I'm going to do the thing.
Well, let's go to breakfast and set it up. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
But you do. You write stuff down. I mean, like whether it's we're having a team meeting. I remember how many times that, on the windows in our office, you get up with the dry erase marker and we're going to write this down.
Yeah.
You always have a journal with you. Now you're using the Michael Hyatt's, 90-day focus journal. But you've had a journal before where you're writing stuff down. You've taken ideas and then committed them to ink. That's been a pattern.
It has. I think for me, I've got to capture it. Like I've got to, before I go on with whatever enters in my brain next, it's like I've got to get this down somehow, whether that's typing it or jotting it down. Or for me, I've always, like, I remember though, even as a kid, if we're talking about like your life calling and knowing who you really are, it's like even as a kid I archived stuff. Like I loved collecting baseball cards, not because I was a huge baseball fan, but because there was a system for like keeping them organized and like easily accessible. And now, like, literally anytime we do this show, there's something where like one of you will say something and I'll go, that reminds me of something else, and I'll pull up Evernote is the app that I use to kind of keep all this randomness in my brain somewhere.
But see, that's a part of who God's created you to be, too.
Yeah, totally.
In Spiritual DNA, Ryan discovered that he's an evangelist, is the biblical word, but the modern day term would be a connector.
Yeah.
Ryan has been designed by God to actually collect information so he can connect other people to it, whether it's resources or it's relationships. Like,
Yeah.
and you do that. You do that. It's like autopilot.
Yeah.
You're always saying, like you're saying, oh, I got a quote for that. Or we're talking about it, you're like, you got to meet this guy. I would say most of our conversations with Ryan begin with him today.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys watched that show, The Chosen? And then he breaks down why we should watch it. Right?
Because it's so natural.
He's connecting us to something that he thinks that we would enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what I think is cool is that you know who you are. You have been doing that continually. But
Yeah.
I think it's a part of that's even what you're doing with you deciding, here's the gifts and talents and who I am.
Right.
And I want to leverage that through the musical abilities that I have. And
Yeah.
I want to produce and write music for people, which is connecting them to memories, connecting them to moments, connecting them to inspiration through the music you're creating.
Yeah, I think some of it, not all of it, but there's certainly a dash.
Listen,
of,
those 80s jams, they connected me to some joy,
Oh,
especially on a summer day on the boat.
So
Come on now.
That is a
good.
soundtrack.
Come on now. There's a dash.
Available at ryansongs.com.
Stop. But go.
But go.
There's a dash of like pain in there though, of like what fuels some of that.
Sure.
Like if you want to dig beneath the surface a little bit and find out like why is there such a desire to create things and speak about things or write things that connect me to people, to connect me to the things I'm good at, to connect thoughts with other thoughts. It's like, well, some of that is because I felt really disconnected as a kid growing up to anyone. Like not necessarily within my family. Like I always felt safe and loved and taken care of. Like my lower hierarchy of needs was covered,
Yeah.
right? But there was always this sense of like, hey, we're moving again. Like uproot, transplant. That was the story of my life. So very, like honestly, until Facebook came around, Facebook was so fun for me because it was like, oh, now I get to connect with my buddy Michael Baird from third grade. I was just telling a story. This is crazy. Just let me allow this little tangent here. So Michael was my best friend, third, fourth, and fifth grade when we lived in Rhode Island together. He was Peter Pan in the production of Peter Pan. I was Captain Hook. So even though we were best friends, we were arch enemies for a season. However, I remember it was like the first friend that I remember getting taken over to his house, like knowing this is the last time we're going to play together.
Oh.
That's like that quote that says one day you went out and you didn't realize it was the last day you'd play with your
Yes.
friends,
But like,
you actually knew.
Yeah,
You
it was
knew.
like it was like fifth grade for us, and we're like, well, I've got to move, you've got to, and that was the norm. Like if you're listening and you grew up in a military family, like you know that's often the norm. So this was crazy, and I think God's hand was totally on it. But like flash forward when I was maybe like I don't know early 30s, so several years ago. I'm in the men's room at the airport bathroom of the Charleston, South Carolina airport.
Okay.
All right.
And
I'm there with you.
I'm washing my hands.
I'm not.
And I look over.
You're just outside the
Thank
door
you.
waiting for us.
Thank
Right.
you. I look over and there's Michael Baird washing his hands at the sink next to me.
No.
And I think he's
He's dressed as Peter Pan.
and I'm like, what is happening? Like it was a layover. It was Charleston, South Carolina, just passing through town for like an hour. And there I run into my best friend from fifth grade. And it was just like worlds colliding again in this connection. And then it was like, okay, man, well, have a good flight, you know? And it was like, see you maybe again in 30 years. But like, to your point of like doing what, you know, you guys are very kind as friends to say, wow, you set your mind to things and you get it done. It's like, yeah, but there's also some pain in that achieving that fills a void of needing to be successful, of needing to look like I've achieved things that are worthwhile. We're kind of getting into a counseling session here, but it's like, but it's true. It's like, what's your motivation in the getting things done? What's your motivation in dreaming up
It's a
goals
shadow
and setting-
strength, right? There's always things hidden in the shadows of our greatest strength.
Yeah.
And they're usually the pain, the things that are motivated by pain or by loss. They're things that we're trying to fill up. Honestly, that the places that only God can really fill up.
Right. Right.
But I think the healthy part is you knowing, listen, there's some stuff like that is my greatest strength.
Sure.
But there's some stuff hidden in the shadows there.
Yeah.
Let's delve a little bit in the shadows. Don't be scared of it. Be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm trying to fill something up here.
Yeah.
Because then I think those are things that we can, with curiosity and self-compassion, which we talk about all the time on the show,
Yeah.
you can bring to God and be like, hey, where did this motivation start? Where are we at with this one?
Yeah.
But it doesn't. But there may be some pain and some things
Sure.
that aren't great. But like it doesn't overwhelm or take away from
Yeah.
the things that you are really, really good at, which is chasing
Right.
these dreams.
And that
Right.
there's one thing that we talked about. I can't remember which one of you guys said it, but like when we were talking on the show about like writing things down, speaking them out, like confessing the things that you're excited about or like wanting to build or grow or create. It's like, yes, and at the same time, that doesn't mean that it has to succeed immediately. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you have to then go out and achieve and fulfill that dream. It just means that all you're doing is saying that you want to go out and get it. That doesn't mean that if it doesn't happen, that you're a failure and it's a failure and you should have never dreamed that up in the first place, you crazy dreamer. What are you thinking about?
Right.
It's like I've got dreams of like being in James Taylor's band and like voicing a Pixar movie, and I've also got I've got all kinds of dreams, but it's like doesn't mean that they're all just because I've said them or written them down gonna happen or that they have to happen.
But I would say this: I could almost guarantee they don't happen if you don't say them and write them down.
100%. Like to your point of like, well, you can't just sit around and wait for this to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I totally get that. Yeah. I'm just saying if you're listening and you're like, man, I've got dreams and I want to go do them, I'm just scared to write them down. Just write them down. Just tell a friend. Just tell anyone. Send us an email. Post it on Facebook. Whatever it is. It doesn't mean that confessing the dream, you have to then go out and achieve it and it's got to be perfect. It's
You know
like,
what? We would love, I'm glad you said that, Ryan. We'd love to hear. If you got some dreams, maybe it's like a step of like challenge from us to you.
Oh, yeah.
Get on Facebook, radiotheology.com, our Facebook page, and post one of your dreams. Maybe this is your first step. Jump on there and say,
Yeah.
hey, guys, thanks for inspiring me. Thanks for making me think. Here's what I want from life. We would love, love, love to hear from you, and let that be your next step. I tell you what, I promise you this. Every Monday, our team gets together on the Monday mornings, and we will pray for your dreams. You send them to us, and we'll pray that those happen. And there's a theological point I hadn't thought about till we were talking about this right now, is in Revelation talks about, and I'm not going to remember all the context of it, but it says that we overcome the accuser, which is the devil, right, by the blood of the Lamb, which is the sacrifice of Jesus, and by the word of our testimony.
Yeah.
That there's actual, and I've heard Mike Breen was a guy, a leadership guy that I love. Mike Breen talked about how do we take new ground in our life from the enemy, the places that the devil tries to come and take your dreams, take your potential, take your peace, whatever it may be. He's always trying to kill, steal, and destroy your life. And the way that we actually hold our ground and then take back ground for our dreams in our life is by the blood of the Lamb. So Jesus does what only Jesus can do. But then the word of our testimony is powerful. And that means actually speaking the things that are true, speaking these dreams out loud, actually bringing them into, and people say, oh, you're speaking into the universe. It's like, no, you're not speaking it into the universe. You're agreeing with God, with the thoughts he's put in your mind,
Yeah.
and you're speaking that back to God and saying, God, I declare this is true. And there's power in that. There's power in our words.
Wow, that's so good. And I love that because partly because I'm a storyteller. So I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm taking back the ground.
Yeah.
But I'm taking back the ground. And even when I went through this past really hard season of really trying to disagree with the devil, right? Like I'm disagreeing with you and I have to say that out loud. And then I'm going to start agreeing with God that I'm not invisible and replaceable and that nobody cares about me, And so, but the whole time I was going through that, part of my filter was, how am I going to share this and when? And like, there was never not a doubt that I'm not telling that story because I became a new person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I died to myself and then I came back to life, and I will tell anybody that will listen. And part of it is I'm a classic oversharer, right? I tell you,
We haven't picked up on that.
oh, really? Really? Way too many things.
hold on, she's about to tell us more.
Yes, way too many things. Exactly. So that's a fine line that I walk, right? But
Yeah.
mostly as a storyteller, which is who God has designed me to be, that's a strength, and I'm not going to waste that strength. So I love that reminder of like, no, don't just say it. Like, and testimony feels like, oh, testimony, like it's not a big crazy thing.
No.
Testimony is just
Right.
speaking the truth and telling your story.
Hope you're enjoying this episode of Behind the Mic. We got a quick announcement for you. Hit it, Lisa.
We are having a super fun party, our Blackbird Mission Gala, It's coming up on March 20th in Fishers, and we would love to have you there.
Ryan, what can they expect for the night?
Music, great food, inspiration, a lot of other fun people who share the same kind of vision that we do about this growing ministry all over Indiana, the Midwest, and the world. It's going to be an awesome time. We'd love to see you there.
Come join hundreds of other folks just like you. Come check it out. You can get tickets right now at blackbirdmission.com/gala. blackbirdmission.com/gala. Get your tickets today, March 20th, 2020, 6 p.m. Come join us for the Blackbird Mission Gala.
I just read, I'm in Mark right now, but I just read Revelation. Well, I had my friendly Bible app read it to me.
That's great.
So I read it.
Well done.
Yeah, I read it. I spent time in that devotional. No, homeboy read it to me while I was brushing my teeth. Anyway, there was an interesting point where it was like, it's kind of around the like every knee will bow. But there's like the Lamb's Book of Life was opened and everyone like gave an account of their life. And I was like, hold on a second. Like, what is that process going to, one, how does that even happen? Mm-hmm. Two, what's that process going to be like?
Dude, I've heard every story I've heard of people who have had near-death experiences.
Yeah.
There's a common theme of them coming to a point where they're giving account for their life.
Really?
Which that's freaky.
Kind of, but okay, dear. Let's just dive into
Here
the
we
deep
go.
end of the pool.
Here we go.
I heard it said one time,
Yeah.
okay, from someone who I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter who. Someone told me once that
It's a great
his first
footnote.
Yeah.
The bibliography just has a question mark on this statement right now, and
Source.
I love it.
Hard to
I've
say.
done it
Hard
hard to
1,000
say.
times.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said his understanding of that was you're not going to give an account for your life in the fact that you're trying to explain away your sins because those have been taken care of, but it's more of a like, what did you do with what I gave you?
Yeah.
And then you get to say all the exciting things that you partnered with God in,
Yeah.
right?
That's good.
That's right.
I like that.
That's
it's a total
better,
difference
right? 'Cause
of, like,
why would you have to? Your sins
yeah.
are gone, east from the west, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
they're
Yeah, like
remembered
because
no more.
you're in going back to what you're saying in Revelation.
Yeah.
You're there because your name has been written in the Lamb's Book of Life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're there like already forgiven.
Yeah.
Jesus has paid the penalty. Here's
Yeah.
this person.
Yeah.
Welcome, Darren Earlywine.
Yeah. Here's your name tag.
Everyone
Everybody
applauds.
applaud. Everybody. I guess the difference would be
Bono
The crowd
shows
goes
up.
wild.
that would be amazing.
Bono just hands you
Dude, you
some
know he will.
drumsticks.
Dude, Bono and I are going to hang it. Bono's on the drummer, Ryan. But, he's going to
No,
give it to
he
me
hands
because we're going
you
to
the
jam.
drumsticks.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you want to jam?
Yeah, I'm going to be like, yeah, Bono, we're going to do like 10,000 years of just you and me playing songs.
We're
And
gonna
in heaven,
braid each
I'm going to be able
other's
to
hair.
sing like Bono. And there's going to be
Ooh,
like
yeah.
there's going to be like a couple thousand years where you guys, have you seen Darren? What is he doing?
Yeah.
He's still singing karaoke with, like Bono.
Down there by where the streets have no name?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that's where he's at.
Well played, sir.
I have not heard what you said, Lisa, but that makes a ton more sense
Yeah.
we're not there justifying our ability to be there. Like, oh, hey, can we fast forward those moments in college?
Right.
Like, that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Do you think that's true?
Well, you've cut to my core here. You've stumped me, Baxter.
Yes.
Theologically, I have not thought this until you said it. Theologically, it makes a lot of sense. I'd have to actually get obviously the Bible in front of me and read it through. But I do know that's a part of that understanding. And if the penalty has already been paid and there's no process of you coming in, and you're not justifying yourself, you've already been justified. So you're
Right.
showing up as a justified, redeemed, the righteousness of Christ. You're in His presence. Your name's in the Lamb's
Right.
Book of Life. So you're not there. There's no the repentance is you're not there to repent of
Right.
and make up for. Oh, please forgive me for that. No, it's already forgiven. So yes, theologically that would make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Now, there is a part of what I don't know is like, it says that some people will, basically make it to heaven as like one escaping through the flames, right? Like, and I don't know, that could be a deal. And then there's the whole reward system in heaven that I didn't get taught a lot growing up.
Yeah.
But the more I read about it, I'm like, there's a whole lot in here about
Yeah.
the reward that we're storing up for ourselves in our next life, in the next life, in heaven, right? So there will be an understanding of, there will be some people that show up and it's like, yeah, you're in. Welcome. Congratulations. Like,
welcome.
So
Yeah.
let's
Not
do.
congratulations
Make yourself
like you won
comfortable.
it.
Yeah.
But like, hey,
Yeah.
here's your
Not
name tag.
going anywhere for a
Yeah,
while.
like,
Toilets are over
Well
there.
done. Enter the rest that God's prepared for you.
Right.
Let's take into account.
Yeah.
And what would be, I guess, sad is if it takes like 30 seconds.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's like Billy Graham. It's like, dude, I got stuck behind Billy Graham. We've been here waiting for,
Good thing we're here for eternity.
yeah,
Right.
600 years hearing all the Billy Graham stories. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
Whereas if yours, it's like, that one thing you did.
Yeah.
I don't know how that shakes out, but I'm going to think about it at least because,
That's good.
it wouldn't be this scary, man, I hope they fast forward through some of that or
Right.
I hope they pixelate
Right.
some of those clips.
Right.
I love
Oh my
that.
gosh.
That's funny.
Well, good. There we go. Look at me bringing a spiritual point.
Well
Come
done.
on now.
I love it.
And it comes back to, we're talking about deciding what you want, and we've gone all the way around it, but writing it down, the word of our testimony. One thing that's helped me is I did get the Michael Hyatt, the 90-day focus planner.
Yeah.
And one of the things that helped me is I had to narrow down and say, what do I want? And it took me about 2 different times, about 2 hours of just praying and reflecting and getting quiet, making space for that. Like there's a practical thought. You got to make space for it.
Yes.
I'm so grateful for our team guardian, Jen McBurney, that works with us in Blackbird Mission. She is a saint of God. And she knew Darren has to get this stuff done. And so she made room in my calendar. And I'm like a slave to my calendar. So if it's there, I obey it. And I woke up that day and I was like, okay. Because
That's what we're doing.
I have to overcome feeling like that's wasted time. I go, what, you're going to go sit by yourself and think? Like, you should be getting something done. It's like, well, that is what needs to be done.
Right.
Took me about 4 hours of sitting there, but as I started writing the things I want from this year, the focus planner, and Ron, if you went through this too, is that the key motivators. It talks about you write your goals down, and then it says key motivations.
Yeah, like why are you even setting this goal?
Yeah, and man, that was an amazing clarifying process of like, let me think through that. Yeah, why? Like, this is what, but why?
Yeah.
And then from why, the next thing was next steps.
Yeah. What do you got to do?
What do you got to do? And this sounds so simple, but
I'm writing this
And
down.
then there was a reward.
Yeah.
It was like, so when you achieve it, what
How
are
you
you
gonna
going to do to celebrate?
Ooh, I love that.
because Lisa, you said, sometimes for you, if you don't write it down, it's just like, it literally, we have thoughts all the time. And I really believe that God has access to our imagination. And a lot of times I ask God, please have all the access to my imagination. Give me all the ideas that you currently have that you're looking for someone to loan. Like, God's got an idea. It's on his heart or his mind right now, and he's looking for someone to loan it to. Who will take this one? So I want all God's ideas. But when they're just an idea in your head, they're literally they're immaterial. They don't have there's no tangible with them.
Right.
And it doesn't take me long before I see a squirrel or something, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking about a minute ago.
Yeah.
But to write it down, like now it has taken the form of ink on paper, and I can come back to it and go, here is that idea. Here was that desire. Let me unpack it. Let me dig into it.
Right. For me, it sits in my my ideas, and this is how I was trying to explain it to somebody yesterday. It was like, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but the way I feel like the Holy Spirit speaks to me, and the way I get thoughts and ideas and visions for my future is all at once. Like, I get the full download package, right? I get the end. I don't know if a lot of people get the end. I feel like a lot of people get the first couple steps, and they get the ball rolling in their imagination or whatever, and maybe it's the motivation to start taking the steps. Like, I get the full download. I can see the whole vision. But now I have this huge vision laid out of all the things. And now I'm like, wait, but what's the step? Like, I want the steps too.
Now you got to reverse engineer yourself. To
Exactly. So that's hard. And maybe that's because it's easy for me to look at the first steps. Like, I always know what my next right step is going to be, And maybe it's just a way for me to stay dependent on God. Because if it's that big, which it is, then I'm going to need to stay dependent on that and stay true to the vision that he's given me. But it's to me, it's frustrating and kind of scary. People are like, oh, I got the next few things. And I'm like, well, I've got the freaking decade down the road, but how do I even get there? How do I build that? I don't know. And then I talked myself out of it. So that's why the other day we joked about it on the show, but like, I had to get this out of my brain, and I'm like coloring with my daughter, and I'm not going to excuse myself from this moment with my kid. So I just pulled out a piece of her paper and the crayons and got it down on paper. And so if it's in crayon, it still counts, right? We talked about that.
Yeah,
but
crayon counts.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that helped me go, okay, now it's here. Let's just take off one bite at a time.
Well, what was interesting is you're talking about you getting it all in one download. Is that the thing you're talking about? It's a whole kind of four layered ministry focus thing with
Yeah.
My Mother of the Year.
Yeah. Right.
But you drew it in boxes and squares. It's like an organizational flow chart with different things. Like
yeah.
it didn't come to you as sentences.
Right.
Like boom, like this thing you had to get in your head was this image of these are the four elements of this ministry, and this is how this is going to happen, and this is what it does.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, okay, boom.
Yeah.
When it's complete,
Yeah.
that's what it'll look like.
Ta-da! You're gonna get there.
And it looks great. It's in
If you
crayon.
do
There's
it.
boxes. There's
Yeah,
lines.
it's pretty,
Things
it's
connect. There's bullet
color-coded.
points.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like, okay, now it's
Now what?
Tuesday on the Tuesday of the year,
Yeah.
right? February.
February.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Gray.
Yeah.
What the freak do I do today to actually go after the first thing?
Right, exactly. And what's hard for me is because now I'm excited by it, that the fear just kicks into overdrive because I don't know how and am not qualified to do those things. That the things I wrote on the paper, I don't know how to do and I can't do.
Nope. You are unprepared.
Thank
You are
you.
completely
Thank you for the rephrase.
qualified.
I'm completely qualified. I'm unprepared. And so, yes, it's looking for the steps for preparation, but to remind myself, like, this is my year of listening. This is not my year of being in a hurry to get something else done and then try not to burn out again at the end of the year, you know? So I'm trying to just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
I love it.
Brr.
You know, guys, and that's our journeys. We share these things because we want you to have some tangible things to go, okay, that's what that could look like. And if you notice, each one of us, comes to these steps differently because you're unique.
Yeah.
Like God's created you on purpose and for a purpose. You are unique, how he's made you, what he's calling you into, the voice that he's given you to speak into the world. And so I want to encourage you, maybe you need a first start. And like I said, to know what you want to do, first you got to know who you are. And maybe that's your next step, is to head over and check out Spiritual DNA, spiritualdna.me. Jump on there. It's an online course. You go through 5 different assessments. There's video teaching. I teach all the sessions. You can watch them. It doesn't take that long to go through the course. You'd have lifetime access to the course. We've taken thousands of people through it. It'll change your life. And maybe that's where you start.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have to get, we don't get a cut from Michael Hyatt. You can order his focus journal. It's helped Ryan and I.
Right.
But, get a piece of paper. For Lisa, it was freaking crayon and a coloring page, right?
Yep.
But it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And so know who you are, then ask God to join you in the process of what is it that I want to do? Put that on paper and then begin to trust him each day with it. And I think I'd be remiss not to say this is I think the step behind and before both of those is coming to a place of really understanding and discovering who God is.
Yeah.
Because you're never stepping into this journey with the right motivations. You're never stepping into this journey with a growing level of trust, a growing level of peace, if you don't know who he is. And that's why the 3 parts of what we're talking about in radio theology come together, that God is for you, not against you. Mm-hmm. If you don't know him in his character and you feel like he's a mean, vindictive jerk that's not for you, you will not trust him with your future. You won't trust him with your past. In fact, you'll probably hate him for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be where you start. Of God, help me to know who you are first, right? That he's for you, he's not against you. That he is near you in these moments, not far away. And as you begin to that process of getting to know him, that's where he's going to take you to allow you to discover who you are, because who you are in him. And then it does start to get pretty exciting when you begin to get down to brass tacks. Okay, now we know who you are. Now I know who I am. Now what are we going to do together?
Yeah.
And that's the sweet stuff in life. And listen, we want to hear from you. So jump on our Facebook. If you need to put it on paper, you can just put it on digital pixels. Go to radiotheology.com. Give us what you want out of this year so we can pray for you. We'd love to do that. We really appreciate you downloading the podcast. Please share it with a friend that might need it. We'd also love for you to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast. And it means the world to us that you join us. I love it. Each and every week I keep bumping into people here in Indianapolis. They'll stop me and say, hey, been listening to the podcast, and I love this thing, and thanks for sharing that. And we'd love to hear from you. Or you can shoot us an email as well, just Darren, Ryan, or Lisa at blackbirdmission.com. And we appreciate you taking the time today. Have an amazing week. We love you, and we'll talk to you next time right here Behind the Mic.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Mic. For more episodes, go to radiotheology.com.